My name is Dr. Fatima Mozawala, a resident at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. I'm also at the Bronx VA and Elmhurst Hospital. And I know we've been on kind of a COVID train of thought, but I wanted to get to a different virus today called the Respiratory Syncytial virus, or RSV for short. Really very quickly, and I think it's very important. So something called long COVID. And given the fact that Mount Sinai Hospital, the hospital Matt just got this very large research grant on long COVID, we're starting to recognize the effects of it and why it's so important. And so I just wanted to briefly mention what it was. But long COVID is basically once you get COVID, sometimes in certain individuals, the symptoms of COVID persist for a longer period of time. So you've gotten the virus, you've gotten treated for the virus, you've gotten remdesivir or one of the monoclonal antibodies, and you've recovered. However, you still, maybe months later, maybe a year later even, continue to feel symptoms that have persisted after getting COVID. I know for me, it was kind of in my lungs where 2 months after COVID, I went on a walk with my mom and I was walking up the hill and I was still short of breath. And for me, that was very abnormal. And so it went away, thank God, after a little bit. But some of these symptoms persist for a longer period of time. They can be in your blood vessels and cause different blood clotting issues. And so people who maybe didn't have any cardiac problems might now have cardiac problems and be at an increased risk for events such as a stroke or which is a heart attack. So it's important to make sure you tell your doctor that you had COVID in the past, or if you had the vaccine in the past, so that they know. So it's definitely a very important part of your medical history. COVID can also have long-term effects on the lungs. It can cause autoimmune issues. It can increase, if you have diabetes already, it can make your diabetes a little bit worse. It can cause your gut, the bacteria in your gut, that healthy bacteria, to get messed up. So some people might get probiotics. It can cause neurological issues with increased inflammation and different peripheral neuropathy. This basically means like if your hands and feet are tingling and they had never tingled before, or if you have certain vision issues that you never really had before. And so it's really important to let your doctor know if you have had COVID and they can treat appropriately. So respiratory syncytial virus. So what is RSV and why do we care? The biggest reason we care about RSV is it's the leading cause of hospitalization in babies. While it is a virus that predominantly affects the elderly and young children, it's still a really important virus and that we all need to protect ourselves from, but also our loved ones from. And we're going to talk about what it is, symptoms, treatment, when to escalate care, and prevention, which is my favorite thing to talk about. So
Always talking about prevention.
always talking about prevention. I'd rather you prevent than have to deal with treatment. I had a bio teacher who used to say prevention protects people. So the 3 Ps: prevent, protect, save the people. So RSV is a very highly contagious virus. It's usually similar to the common cold. It's very common, and most people will have gotten RSV by the time that they're 2 years old. The difference is, and why it's the leading cause of hospitalization in babies, is that sometimes it can cause really severe symptoms, and if not treated appropriately, the biggest thing is it affects your lungs. And so you're not able to breathe, your oxygen saturation goes down, the amount of oxygen your blood vessels carry goes down, and so you start experiencing, your baby might have blue lips, they might have blue fingers, they might be gasping for breath. When we talk about increased work of breathing, it's like, so if you're leading up basically and you're bracing your hands on your knees, you can't breathe standing up and sitting up normally. That's kind of a symptom of increased work of breathing. Or if you're coughing, or if you're trying to breathe faster than normal, so hyperventilating. So if you see a little baby going chances are they're hyperventilating, and that's something of concern. It's a very contagious virus. While it is very common, it can become severe, but vaccines and other preventative measures, such as washing your hands, can help stop the spread of this dangerous virus. And the biggest time to get RSV, so we have like flu season, which is in the fall. RSV is also in the fall, but it's more towards the winter. So the biggest season for RSV is September through January. It's an infection that affects your lungs and your breathing tract. While they're mostly mild and similar to the common cold, they can become serious in adults, immunocompromised people, so people who might be undergoing chemo or have other underlying health conditions such as multiple sclerosis or diabetes or really bad heart conditions. These vulnerable groups are more likely to need hospitalization if they develop RSV. How does RSV spread? It is through the eyes, nose, and mouth by droplets. So we call it droplet spread. Anything that can make something like water or or liquidy come out of you. So if you sneeze on somebody, if you're crying and your tears fall on somebody, if you cough on somebody, that is how the virus will spread. If I'm in this room and Frances is in that room and we can see each other, but I haven't coughed on her, I haven't drunk her water, she's probably not going to get it. And so masks help, and we'll talk about a couple of other prevention strategies. But because direct contact and droplets from an infected person can infect another person, it can also survive on hard surfaces for hours. So if Frances sneezes and she coughs in her hand, and she might not even see it, but there might be an invisible droplet on her hand, and then she goes to hold the door open for me. While it's very sweet that she held my door open for me, when I go to touch that door to close it, the droplets from Frances's hand, even 2 to 3 hours later, can be on that door. They can come on my hand, and then if I touch my face or if I touch some open body part, then it can go into your respiratory tract and I can get what she had. So I can get sick too.
Really easy to spread like that. Yeah.
And so while I love you opening doors for me, don't cough into your hand before you open doors. But that's also why whenever we go into a patient's room, or we hand sanitize before going to the room and after, because you don't know what surface you're going to touch and how you're going to spread the virus. But just talking about symptoms, so you can have similar to a common cold, you can have a fever, you can have a cough, you can have a runny nose. What we classify as a fever is not a temperature of like 99. A fever is when the temperature goes above 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's when you tell your doctor you have a fever. RSV affects the lungs, and so it can cause difficulty breathing. Oftentimes in babies, a baby can't talk, so they can't tell you that they're sick. So what you might see is that they're not taking their bottle, they're not feeding properly, they're just being really, really cranky. And those are some things that indicate that, hey, my baby might have RSV. In terms of similarities to COVID, RSV can cause a cough, COVID can cause a cough, RSV can cause a sore throat, COVID can cause a sore throat. COVID also presents similarly to the common cold, but the biggest thing is with COVID, the special symptoms for COVID are a loss of taste and smell. You usually don't get that with RSV. RSV usually doesn't affect your stomach and gastrointestinal system, so you won't get the diarrhea and the vomiting. It usually remains in your lungs. It affects your lungs worse, I think, in babies especially, and so you'll have increased work of breathing, meaning that it'll be harder for your baby to breathe, and we talked about what that might look like. Your baby's oxygen levels are what are going to be really important to monitor. So if you have an oxygen monitor at home or even an Apple Watch, you can do the pulse ox monitoring. And so with the Apple Watch, it's like a little dial, and it's the red and blue circle, and that's the one that you can do. You keep your hand on a flat surface for 15 seconds, press start, and I'll tell you your oxygen saturation. COVID can also cause skin rashes. It might cause red and swollen eyes. RSV usually, again, is localized and remains in the lungs. In terms of RSV presents usually a lot quicker after infection. So if Frances held the door open for me 2 days ago and I'm now presenting with a cough, it's probably likely that I got RSV. COVID usually has something we call a longer incubation period. So it stays in your body longer without making you sick. So it's replicating, and then all of a sudden it'll make you sick. So it's usually about 5 to 10 days after you've come in contact with somebody with COVID that you'll get COVID, but it can vary from anywhere from 2 to 15 days. RSV, also similar to the cold, will cause a lot of sneezing, a lot of wheezing, a lot of congestion. COVID usually has a little bit less of a runny nose. RSV can cause more severe cough and wheezing. One thing that's important to note in babies, because they can't tell you the symptoms that we look at in babies, is that, again, the difficulty feeding. So they're not taking their bottle, they're crying a lot more than usual. They might even turn bluish because they're not getting the same amount of oxygen. So if you see a baby with RSV, you might see a little bit of a bluer baby, and their lips might not be as pink as they normally are. Their fingers, if you press down on your finger, you see how when I press down, it's white and then it returns to red really quickly. When a person has RSV, it might not return to red very quickly, and that just means there's a lack of oxygen. Who's at risk? We talked about this before, but I'll just mention it briefly. It's the adults older than 60 years of age, babies younger than 1, and in infants, you might have the cough, short, shallow, rapid breath. I tried to demonstrate the hyperventilation, but and their chest muscles and their skin might pull in tightly when they inhale. So if you're looking at your baby's chest, when they inhale, they might look like they're like crouching, and they'll be unusually tired and irritable. And so those are some of the symptoms of babies, they also range. So when they're younger, in infants, the cough can be either wet or dry. They can have a runny nose, they'll have the congestion. Your baby's nostrils might also flare out. So they might look like they're going out while they're breathing, and they might make some noises. So they might do some grunting sounds. And those are a little bit more concerning. They might not want to play with anybody. And in older kids, they might just have a headache and they can tell you a little bit more, and they'll tell you, Mom, my throat hurts. I feel tired. I can't swallow as much in the morning, especially when the baby goes from, or the child goes from lying to sitting. When they come up to sitting and they like wake up first thing in the morning, they might have production of some mucus.
Yeah.
It's very, very contagious. So if your child who is in like 5th grade gets the cold and gets RSV and brings it home to your baby, that's a problem because the baby is more at risk to get the RSV. So when should you take your baby to the hospital? When are you concerned? Because unfortunately, your 3-month-old can't tell you that they need to go to the hospital. But what we can look for is if you see any signs of discoloration, so the blue or the grayish lips, along with other symptoms like your child has a fever, your child is coughing a lot, act early, act quickly, act early, get your baby the help that it needs. So you can take your child to the hospital if you see any discoloration. If you see difference in breathing patterns, so you see those short, quick breaths. If you see the nostrils flaring or the child kind of caving in while breathing, that's a problem. If you see the baby not producing a lot of urine, a child can't tell you that they're dehydrated, but they can stop making as many wet diapers. That's concerning too. Also, if you see any pauses in breathing, and they'll definitely be crying a lot more. I can vouch for that. I had a little sister who got RSV and we're 11 years apart, so I remember that. You'll notice when your baby isn't your baby, and when they get to a point where they're getting some more concerning signs that show that they're maybe not breathing as well, then it's important to take them to get care. Talking about how it can get severe, how you can end up in the hospital, what can we do to protect against RSV? This is my favorite part of any conversation, but what can we do? So RSV usually resolves within 2 weeks, but the coughing and the wheezing might stay in some people for a couple of more weeks. But usually it resolves within 2 weeks. So it doesn't have that same long-term effect that COVID has. Usually it's more of a shorter time period effect, but it's a more severe effect. So in order to not have that happen, you've got to vaccinate. Vaccines can be given to adults who are 60 years and older. It's called the RSV vaccine. It's similar to the COVID vaccine where you get a little bit of the virus to challenge your immune system to produce an immune response. So you have those antibodies and your immune system knows how to fight it, so that if you actually contract the virus, that you can have a better immune response and you can respond in a more efficient fashion. It's like practice. If you know what it's like to run 2 miles and your body's used to running 2 miles, if you have to run 3 miles in a 5K, your body's used to running 2 miles. It knows how to do it. It'll be able to do the 5K. In terms of who's eligible for the RSV vaccine, it is, again, adults over 60, baby, and also pregnant people. You can receive an RSV vaccine between the 32 and 36 weeks. And so that's a safe vaccine to be given during pregnancy. And that's why even before your child is born, we can help prevent so many diseases. And that's why seeking adequate prenatal care is essential to help produce so many diseases. Once you have a child, it's really hard. I saw my mom and my little sister to take them to the doctor to keep on top of everything. But there's so much we can prevent ahead of time too. And so there's a vaccine between 32 and 36 weeks. If your baby is 8 months or younger, during their first RSV season, they can receive a protective antibody. That's not even a vaccine, that's an antibody treatment given. And so that's basically giving like your baby's body some extra cells to help it fight RSV. So if your child is 5 months old, it's October, you can get them the RSV antibody, especially if you have older children that are in school and that are likely to bring some kind of cold home. It's maybe a good idea to get your infant the RSV antibody because it just gives them a little bit of extra protection. And so if they do contract the virus, they have those extra antibodies. I always think of immune cells as fighter cells. So they got those extra fighter cells to help fight the virus and protect it. So they got some extra knights. Helper T cells. So there's like immune cells. And what I think of is like warriors that are fighting all the virus in my body. And what the vaccines do is they help us make extra soldiers that usually last for a little bit longer. These are when the vaccines can be given. And you can also give antibodies to children who are 8 to 19 months old who have an increased risk of severe infection during their second RSV season. And that would be because, say, again, you have a lot of children in the house, or if you have have a history of asthma, if the child has any other immunocompromising conditions, such as maybe they were premature or they have congenital heart conditions, that's maybe a good idea and is a place to get the antibody. RSV can have some complications, which include repeat RSV. So even during the same season, if you're like, wait, my kid just got RSV, how are they getting it again? Unfortunately, you can get the cold multiple times consecutively. So getting it one time doesn't always protect you from getting it another time, because the virus mutates and you might get a different form of the virus. The biggest fear is, and why we give these vaccines, is to help the prevention of pneumonia. So we don't want our children developing pneumonia. And so that's what these vaccines help prevent again. So you might get the cold, but you'll get a decreased version of it because your fighter cells are ready to fight, so they can fight it before it becomes more severe. Prevention tips that are so simple for all of us. When you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. And my mom always used to tell me this, but don't cough into your hand because your hands touch so many things. So always cough into your elbow, because it's less likely that you're going to use your elbow to open a door than use your hand to open a door. And so that way you're helping prevent droplets from spreading and from infecting everybody. Sanitizing hard surfaces. So if you're in a classroom or a pre-K, wiping down the tables and chairs every day. My best friend is a preschool teacher, and before snack time, before lunchtime, before they have their like nap time, she is constantly Lysol wiping everything. And it's just to help prevent the spread of infections. Babies and children will love to lick everything, and there's always stuff falling out of their mouth that gets everywhere. And so sanitizing hard surfaces, but you want to make sure you're sanitizing with an antibacterial sanitizing cleaning solution or wipe, whatever that may be. If you have children that are sick, I know it's so hard to keep them away from each other, but then keep them out of school, because it's so important to stay home if you are sick, even if you don't think that you're that sick. My entire co-resident cohort has been having lots of cold-like symptoms, and I started experiencing some today, so I'm working remotely today instead of in person, and just trying to protect those around me. And as much as it stings, it's so important, because you would want someone to do that for you. And to get your vaccines, vaccinate. I cannot stress that enough. So those are some of the ways that we can help prevent RSV. Now, if you've gotten RSV, how do you treat it? So the one thing with RSV is it's a virus that multiplies so frequently and can change its strain so frequently. There isn't a good treatment for RSV. It can present so similarly to the common cold, and you just have to symptomatically treat it. So what does symptomatically treating it mean? It means if your child or loved one has a fever, or if you have a fever and pain, to take over-the-counter Tylenol, acetaminophen, Motrin, ibuprofen to help reduce the fever. Biggest thing, hydrate. I cannot stress this enough. It's a virus in your body. The more water you drink, you want to flush out that virus. You want to get everything out of there. So drink. If your child is having a tough time breathing, you can use a humidifier. A humidifier can kind of help make the air a little bit moist and ease with the congestion. It can also help if you have a nebulizer treatment at home. A nebulizer can help your child, and if they do, God forbid, need to be hospitalized, oftentimes they'll do nebulizer treatments to just keep the air moist and make it easier for your body to breathe. Because oftentimes what happens is your nose gets so congested. When we breathe in and out through our nose, that's how the air gets moist enough and enables us to breathe better. You can use saline nasal drops or saline spray to help clear the congestion in your nose. If your child is sick, if you're giving cold medicine like cough medicine like Robitussin or anything, you should make sure that you consult with your physician first before giving them the medication, because sometimes they do have harmful effects, especially in children, and they can cause increased sleepiness and other effects that are not safe for babies. Where can you get the vaccine? If you go to any pharmacy near you, you can get the RSV vaccine, and your PCP and your healthcare provider, anywhere you can get a COVID vaccine, you can likely get an RSV vaccine. For any physical, they'll probably offer it to you. And when you're actively following up with prenatal care, you can get it as well. If your loved one is above the age of 60 and they follow up with their doctor, their PCP will give them the vaccine. One of the other things and why we're paying more attention to it is because with RSV, it's so preventable. And now our main thing with COVID, we learned how we can prevent the spread of disease. And RSV is one of those diseases that's very preventable. It's preventable from especially getting long-term complications. So that's why I think there's a new focus on helping to prevent its spread and extra complications.
We take the prevention stuff that we learned from COVID and apply it to other things. And that's a really positive way of making sure we're protected as much as possible.